Welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is episode 3 of season 3. My name's Adil Ma, and I have Misophonia. This week, I'm happy to bring a conversation with Marcus. Marcus is a comedian based in Australia, and he travels around the world doing stand-up. We talk about incorporating misophonia in his act. He's quite an advocate for miso, and we talk about how he copes with traveling around the world and staying in new places where he can't always control his environment. I want to mention a little news this week. The 2020 Misophonia research grants from the Milken Institute's Misophonia Research Fund were just announced this week, and there were a bunch of exciting projects that are going to be funded. For example, at Duke University, Dr. Claire Robbins will conduct postdoctoral research to develop a treatment protocol based on methods targeting emotional disorders, including misophonia. At the University of Florida, Dr. Andres Kiel will use multimodal imaging techniques to evaluate the interaction between auditory processing, emotion, and sensory perception in misophonia. At the University of Illinois, Dr. Fatima Hussein will study misophonia in the context of the audiological disorders such as tinnitus and hyperacusis. At the University of Mississippi, Dr. Laura Dixon will evaluate the physiological basis of misophonia. At the University of Nevada in Vegas, Dr. Aaron Hannon will examine whether misophonia is linked to differences in high-level auditory processing. And at the University of Sussex, Dr. Jamie Ward will test the hypothesis that atypical sensory sensitivity may underlie misophonia and predispose some people to develop misophonia. Congratulations to everyone who got a grant this year. Looking forward to great discoveries and hopefully treatments and maybe a cure. All right, now here's my conversation with Marcus. If you'd like to also check out his work, his website is It's Marcus Ryan, ITS Marcus Ryan. All the links will be in the show notes. His website has videos, all kinds of information about him, and hopefully tour dates once he's able to travel again post-COVID. All right, enjoy. Marcus, welcome to the podcast. Really been looking forward to this, and I think this will be fun for everybody.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Cool. So, you sent me some stuff. I reread a little bit, but I kind of want to, go in kind of organically. So why don't you let us know, obviously, by your accent, people could be from anywhere, but why don't you let us know where you are?
Yeah, I'm in Australia, which I think everyone knows where that is.
Country and a continent.
Yeah, a country and a continent. It's been interesting down here. I'm a stand-up comedian. I try not to be defined by that, but that's probably been my main income and vocation for the last 20 years. So that's been interesting. Taking that all over the world. I started out here in Australia, and I'm pretty much a vagabond. I've lived in many countries, and I've performed in 50 countries around the world. And I'm self-employed, and I just tour around. So when I'm not working, awesome. I'm traveling, but when I'm working, I'm traveling at the same time. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That sounds like a great life.
It was up until March, and then
right.
then the world stopped, and I'm not even allowed out of my own state. So I've lost everything.
Some vocations a lot worse than others. That's I mean, we could talk about the whole that whole lockdown kind of situation, how that affects me. So, but you're stand-up comedian. Something that comes up a lot, and I take to heart is like comedy, like humor, is one of the coping mechanisms that it's kind of one of the unsung heroes for a lot of people. So, why don't you tell us about? What does that mean to you? What does comedy mean to you? In relation to misophonia, and then later, we'll talk about your specific origin stories and all that stuff too. But yeah, I'd love to just kind of go right off the bat, like humor and misophonia, like how do they relate for you?
Well, I think it's quite interesting because I only learnt about misophonia in the last 2 years.
Wow.
I didn't know that it was even a thing. I was gigging in another part of Australia, and a friend of mine I was on in the car with, she happens to have it, and we were just talking about annoying things, and she said, "Oh, I think you might have this thing." And I said, "Oh yeah, what is it?" And so she sent me a link, and I started looking at all the symptoms and all the the reasons why, and I said, "Oh, okay, it's good to know. Now I can actually categorize
Yeah.
my anger and my frustrations at the world." And ever since I found out, I just grabbed onto it, and I actually I've taken it with pride. I've actually been going around telling people quite openly,
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, this is what I've got, so you can't blame me anymore for being angry.
Right.
I've got a
Right.
thing." And it's been fun for me to actually sort of being able to identify it, as opposed to feel bad about it. It's like, all right, there's more people like me.
Yeah. Oh, definitely there are. And do you incorporate it in your acts, or is it just something that as you're traveling, that you're just kind of like grabbing people and telling them that you have misophonia?
No, yeah. Ever since I found out, I started writing jokes about it, and it's like it's a whole new area that I can go into. And one of the good things is on stage, I'm a quite uh, interactive performer, so I like to engage with the audience. And a lot of comedians are straight stand-ups, or they're storytellers. I'm a
Mm.
storyteller, but I also like to bounce off the audience too. So in my most recent one man show I did, it was a show where I talked about different things that annoy people, and that came up, and I opened it to the floor, and I've just been getting so much response from audiences where they come back and go, "Oh yeah, this happens and that happens," and it takes one or two people, like, to the first person to put their hand up, and then everybody just wants to get in and go, "Yeah, I think I've got it too." And
Wow. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Because we always wonder, like, this got to be a bunch of people who just don't know yet. We know there are people who just think that, and they have an annoyance, so they think they can relate. But
yeah.
that's interesting that you have this platform that you can really kind of like make people feel comfortable and just kind of really thinking about whether they have it or not. That's really interesting
It's
in
almost
the
like,
in a humorous
yeah,
kind of environment too.
of course, yeah, and I think that's what we should do. We should always try and embrace anything in life with humor if we can. And I think when I first heard I had it, I thought, wow, I must have really pissed off a lot of people over the years. Think like they would have thought I just was short tempered, or had
Oh
real
yeah.
weird anxiety for no reason, or I had anger management problems. But all this time I was getting triggered by visuals and audio things that were getting under my skin, and I couldn't define it. I couldn't say why it was happening. And
Yeah.
now I'm comfortable with talking about it. So yeah, it's really fun to mention it on stage now, because people can relate, and people come up to me afterwards and they want to share their stories, and it's almost like we've started a little support group.
That's amazing. And this is all over the world too, right? Like you've been in the past couple of years, um, you've hit all over the world with kind of misophonia as part of the act as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
this time last year, I was touring in Eastern Europe, and doing shows there. So I was talking about it with everybody locally there, and one of those funny things for me. My job and life has been traveling and staying in random accommodation. I'm staying at different people's homes. I'm staying. I'm dealing with foreign languages, and having to deal with all of that, and talk about what I've got. It's interesting going into different people's homes and having to be aware of how they live.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of control. So I think control is one of the big things as well.
Absolutely.
You have to know when you're about to put yourself in a situation that could be quite detrimental, and just be ready for it.
Yeah, and how do you do that? Do you just kind of tell yourself in your head silently that okay, the next 48 hours could be a complete shit show, so
Yeah.
just be ready for it, but you'll be out of here? Or is it like, you go in with headphones and you don't take them off?
I think it's yeah, I think it's a thing of preserving energy, knowing that,
Yeah,
okay,
that's a good point. Yeah.
yeah,
You have a
I'm about
limited
to
amount
go
of
in.
energy.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
about to go into a social situation where it's going to be overwhelming. I'm going to be mentally drained. So just chill out before it and go in there knowing that it's okay. You've got this. There's going to be screaming children, or there's going to be
Oh yeah.
a lot of people at this festival or at this gig or whatever it is, and just be ready for that. But know that it'll pass. It's just a moment. So. Yeah, but it's very hard to tell yourself that in the moment when
Oh
it's
yeah.
actually happening. So there's a trigger that happens and you can't control your outbursts. That's the thing I'm trying to learn about now, and I'm learning more and more that I'm not in control in that split second, and I shouldn't feel bad about that. Um, I'm interested to know though how I can get past that. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's something we hear a lot. It's like once you're in, it's almost like uh, nothing you can do, and then it's a matter of well, there's the whole fight or flight, and almost everybody goes for flight.
yeah,
Well, at least they admit that's what they. Those
yeah.
people who admit it, they just go for flight, and then it's just a matter of like when does that energy? How long does it take for the energy to come back? The good energy. Um,
Well, yeah, I try to leave if I know I'm getting anxious and I'm about to have a panic attack in a situation. I try and get up physically and move away from a certain person or an area, and just and walk it off, get some fresh air.
yeah.
And that's not just to do with misophonia. That's just in general. If you're feeling anxious, I feel exercise is probably the best thing for it. Fresh air, exercise, get
Yep.
moving. Um,
Perspective that way. Yeah.
yeah, if you're stuck in a confined space, I find that's where it happens a lot. I can handle noisy people and noisy children if I'm in an area that's outdoors and I know I can move away from it or they will be moving. But if I'm in a room and then there's people banging at my door or
Right.
outside the window or something, you can't move from that. So that's something you have to sort of learn to deal with, I guess.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. You've been around the world. The small windows I've had of other parts of the world, especially Eastern Europe, like you mentioned, there is almost what I've heard is from people I've interviewed. There's definitely no talk about it, and very little awareness. Is this something that you've kind of experienced as well? Certain parts of the world are much even less aware than you know Australia or the United States.
I mean, it's so bizarre that I think there's that thing like once you've heard of something, then it just keeps appearing all the time. I can't remember what that expression is, but uh, yeah, like when I first heard of misophonia, then I about 3 days later there was an interview on the radio about it. Then I saw an article in the news,
Mm.
like it just kept popping up, and it's like, wow, now all of a sudden this thing's everywhere, and
It's
maybe
like in the zeitgeist, and it's just
yes,
yeah.
yeah, I had no idea when when it was named, when it was actually. Do you know that? Do you know when it was given a name?
Yeah, I know it was around the turn of the millennium. It was around 20 years ago or so. I don't know off the top of my head that the exact the history of it, but it originally was called well, selective sound sensitivity syndrome was a more popular name for a while, and then but misophonia was always kind of like in the background, and then I think people just realized it was easier to say. So around like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it switched
Yeah,
to misophonia.
yeah. I think people just always thought I was cranky, just easily
Yeah. Oh yeah. Me
easily
too.
irritated, and that was funny when I was in Eastern Europe though. On a public bus, I think I was going from Hungary to Slovakia, and there was a guy behind me, and I have this real big issue with public transport, even though it's usually the thing I have to get wherever I'm going.
Yeah.
For some reason, people who are on public transport, um, the ones who have the least interesting conversations are the ones who have the longest battery life on their phones. These
Yeah.
people will get on a bus, and they're also the same people who don't have headphones,
Hmm.
and they don't have spatial awareness or awareness of people around them. They come on and there could be an empty bus and they choose to sit right behind you, and then they get on their phone and they have these long conversations, and on the speakerphone, or their keypad tone is on. It's like they just tick
Oh, the
every
keypad tone,
box.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they tick every single box of wanting to annoy you. And I was on this bus, and this guy was behind me, and I didn't know how to tell him because he couldn't speak English and I couldn't speak Slovakian. So
Right, right, right.
I luckily I had Wi-Fi on my phone, and I Googled. I got, this is one way I solved it. I got on Google Translate, and I said to him in Google Translate, "Your music is very loud," and
Wow.
uh, and I had to show him. Like the first time I turned around, I did that universal look of, please turn your music down,
The
and
glare. Yeah.
that glare, the frustration, and he wasn't catching on. And I was like, oh no, he doesn't speak English. Okay, fair enough. So I did the translate, and I showed him my screen,
Yeah.
and luckily he caught on, and he wasn't going to get angry at me. He acknowledged it, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
And I thought, oh,
And
isn't that great? I was able to communicate with someone in another language just showing them my phone. So that was really cool.
so and he did he turn things down and was
He
it
did, but it was,
yeah.
yeah.
It was
He
still
was
like
also, yeah, he was also right behind me,
yeah,
and I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh well, I'm about to get punched in the head, or you never know.
So how did that so when he did so he's right behind you. So obviously it's it's the triggers are still somewhat there. But
Yeah.
did that slight improvement suddenly lower the stress level and aggravation for you enough?
It did a bit, but it's very hard when you're on a long bus journey between countries and you're a
Yeah.
fish out of water. Like I'm nobody knows where I am. I'm in a country where I don't speak the language. I'm definitely the minority right here. So I was kind of brazen
Right.
to stand up to this,
I was
but
just yeah, I was just curious because with fight or flight, oftentimes like when you try to convince yourself that you're time boxed and the situation will be over soon. I was just curious if like that slight improvement relaxed your brain to kind of not be afraid of somebody of something attacking you, which is kind of what the feel sensation is with misophonia.
yeah.
So
I think it does, but I think you're already. It's almost like it's pushed your buttons. So in that
yeah,
moment, your anxiety is already there, and it just needs like one more bump to then crack open again. I feel like you need a bit of time to pass before it.
oh, absolutely,
If anyone else comes along and says one more thing, you're triggered and you're ready to snap again. So
right.
that's a hard thing is trying to get people to realize that the thing you need most in that moment is just space. That's for me personally. Anyway, I'm not sure if that's for everybody, but for me, if I've already had a little outburst of anger or I've snapped because I've been triggered by these noises, the last thing I
Right.
want is someone coming up and consoling me or putting, oh, what's wrong? Talk about it. Tell me.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
no
yeah.
way. Yeah, I need the time. Um, so
Absolutely.
that
You just need some personal space, personal time, that
yeah,
walk or whatever
yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just noise. I know that different people talk about visual triggers.
Oh yeah.
Uh, they talk about not just the noises but visuals, but also I find words can trigger me too, which is very interesting.
I've seen that show come up on like the Facebook groups and whatnot, and sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's certain like I don't know, grammatical or weird like nuclear that kind of stuff that seems to annoy
Yeah,
some people, but you know, my bad. But sometimes I'm like, maybe that's just kind of like your a stickler for English,
yeah.
but I'm seeing it more and more, and I'm just maybe there is something about the sound relation to certain words that brings back some I don't know miswiring of the brain.
Well,
um,
that's what I'm curious about too, and I'm going to say this next thing without hopefully offending anybody, or because I'm not educated on the effects or the causes and things like that, but I'm very curious to think that maybe I'm on the spectrum somewhat. Like
mhm.
what is it exactly that causes somebody to have misophonia, and then you have the anxiety, and you have things like certain words or the way people behave. All of those things uh, create these little anxieties and personality traits that I've had people tell me. I think, oh, you might be on the spectrum, and it's interesting to think that this all could be related somehow. So I'm not sure.
It's something that, yeah, it's something that does come up, and I've asked, researchers that have come. I've only had a few researchers, but I've asked that question because that does come up a lot. The answer so far is that there hasn't been any definitive link between, autism
Yeah.
and misophonia, but it's just early days in research, and I don't know if enough about it to say that there's possible there could be an overlap or something parallel or something
Yeah.
related. But yeah, you're not. I mean, you're not alone in thinking that they could be related.
Well, I mean, it could be a very mild form of autism. They have
Right.
similar behaviors regarding it. But there's words. And I think maybe I was always a bit of a grammar Nazi as well when it came to people who spell your and you are, and so I would get annoyed when people
Right.
do that. But even
Yeah.
when people say words, they abbreviate things that I don't like hearing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
my own frustrations. So and visually, I have really bad hay fever. I've always had it as a
Mm.
child. These allergies. So now it's springtime in Australia. So this is the worst time for me to exist, and
Right. Right.
I get triggered if I see a lawnmower. That's the kind of
Oh, yeah. Leaf
like I.
blowers too are not. Yeah, not great. But yeah,
No, I know.
lawnmower.
I came up with a joke a while ago about leaf blowers. I think we should have the movie The Terminator, but we call it the Misophoniator.
Right.
It's a cyborg that goes back in time to kill the inventor of the leaf blower, and
Yep.
yeah, the catchphrase is "I'll be quiet." Um, anyway,
We should put these on shirts. Definitely, I'll be
I
quiet.
know.
Yeah.
That was what when I first heard of misophonia, I thought, yeah, there's a whole new market for comedy here that people
Yeah.
probably. There's not a lot of comedians that do shtick on
No.
misophonia. So
No.
maybe there's a lot of bumper stickers you could do here.
Yeah. Well, Ricky Gervais definitely talks about sound issues quite a bit. He
Oh,
doesn't
really?
say misophonia by name, but if you Google Ricky Gervais misophonia, you'll see a lot of people telling him, like on Twitter, constantly telling him, "You have misophonia. You have misophonia." And
Yeah.
he mentions it, late night shows. He mentions, his annoyances with sound. It's come up on some of his shows. So that might be interesting.
That
Look
that
into
would
some of his material.
yeah. I'll definitely
Because I
look
mean,
up.
he's very much like our kind of. I'm sure he gets annoyed out of just like we do about a lot of these things. So
Oh yeah, and we share very similar personality. Like
Oh yeah,
all comedians tend to be very observant. We're very quiet people in the sense that people think that we're all extroverts, but we're not.
no,
We tend to be introverts. We prefer to observe and listen, and our senses are very heightened. We can we can hear a lot of things going on and see a lot of things going on. So I think that's one of the causes that you're triggered so much by things you hear, and you get annoyed by things. That's one of the things of a comedian is you're not funny unless you're angry. That's like
right.
one of those common things of a comedian. So yeah, I did find that with being able to write comedy about it. I talk about restaurants, how I talk about having misophonia where I can't go to restaurants because of not just the noise but the bill.
Yeah, right, right,
you
right.
know, but in a restaurant, hearing people eat and hearing the noise, it's being in a confined space that really gets to me. So I've chosen now to if I was going on a date, I would have to go to a picnic or choose to go
Outdoor
outdoors.
patio or yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's and all jokes aside, it has actually been a problem with dating because people want to go out to a restaurant, like that's the thing, and you go, well, that's just I can't do that, and
Like a
even
candlelight dinner or something. I mean, that seems
oh
like a disaster.
yeah, I mean I
And
would
put fire in front of us. That's fire and misophonia. That could be a quite a
uh,
dangerous
I
situation.
like. I like sitting around a fireplace because there's that nice noise.
The crackle, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I like to have noise when I'm eating, so that if I'm eating with somebody, I don't have to listen to them eat.
Yep.
Um, but even going to cafes and restaurants, I have to sit in that seat that is facing everyone. Like
Okay.
I have to be in the like if there's a booth and one's against the wall and there's
Yeah.
a seat facing inwards against the wall, I have to be on the seat that faces out.
Outside. Oh, is that so you can so you know where the sound's coming from or
I'm curious to know whether this is partly because of my job as a comedian.
oh,
I
to
have
observe
I
people?
have to
Yeah.
be aware. Yeah, I need to observe things, but and I've heard this from other people too. We not just comedians, but other people who feel like they need to sit to face out. It's that fear of being attacked from behind or something. It's that
Mm.
weird kind of thing. Like you lose control if you're facing inwards and you don't know who's behind you or what's going on behind you. Um,
Ah, interesting. Yeah.
so I wonder if that's somehow associated or whether it is just one of those weird traits I have where it's a lack of control
Yeah.
and you feel like you need to be in that space where you can see everything going on. And if, I
No,
don't
that
like,
makes total sense. I would have
yeah,
thought that initially, I mean, my instinct would be to face the wall, put my noise canceling headphones on because then I don't get visually triggered and then I'm not going to get audio triggered. But that sense of control
yeah,
and that sense of not being, jumped from behind by
yeah,
physically or sonically, that makes sense. But yeah, I wouldn't thought of that, but that makes total
yeah.
sense.
I mean, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going through my life constantly worried that someone's going to jump me. But
But
it
you've
is
made a
that.
few enemies along the way.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I think that's another.
Yeah.
That is another true thing you mentioned there. As a comedian, I've learnt really. I've learnt to be very sharp-witted, and I guess that's a natural ability as well, which is why I've become good at comedy. But when I'm on stage, I'm so used to dealing with hecklers and people who want to shout out things
Oh,
that
yeah.
I can shoot somebody down really quickly, and sometimes that comes out the wrong way because you take it off stage and you're in real life and you say something harsh back and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, that's just a natural reflex from my job.
Oh, let's
Uh,
talk about the yeah, heckling and misophonia. So is that I mean, does heckling bother you just purely as on a comedic level as a comedian on stage, or is there a kind of a miso component, and does any of that rage kind of hit you on stage in that situation?
it does actually. I've found that so I started comedy 20 years ago, and this was before mobile phones were a common thing, right?
Right.
So I've lived through the time where comedy was quite good in clubs where there was no distractions. People would buy a ticket, they'd come and sit down, and concentration span. People could sit there and actually
Yeah.
enjoy a piece of theater for an
Maybe
hour
have a
or an hour.
cigarette. Those things.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was yeah, and there was no one looking at their screens during a show. And I went through the period where people started having phones and then started looking at their phones throughout shows. And it is one of the most frustrating things for a live performer to be on stage and have people have their phone go off or people take phone calls
Ugh,
and people
yeah.
texting, people just so I think as a performer, that's really annoyed me. As someone with misophonia, it's annoyed me even more. It's that thing of, hey guys, can't you just like pay attention for a little while? And I get, yeah, it's a very hard thing as a comedian. You have to be liked on stage. Your job is to be likable, whether you're portraying an angry character or
Right.
whether your persona is like there's comedians who have that kind of, oh, I'm a dark comedian and I do edgy material. They're still likable. We like who they are.
Yeah, you want to
And
be you want to be sympathized with, if that's the right way of
exactly,
saying it.
yeah.
But yeah.
But so that's a hard thing because when I get angry on stage, the whole time have to remember I can't flip the switch. People have to actually still like me. So it can
Right. It can't
change.
get uncomfortable.
It can't
You
get
can't get too
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you can be a really dirty comedian, or you can say some horrible things on stage. But as long as people know that you're joking and they find it funny, but if the moment you turn on an
Right.
turn on an audience member, so I've had this time where I was in a club. There was maybe 400 audience members or something, and the majority of the crowd, they could not see the couple in the front row, and there was this couple in the front. There was a little table, and they were just constantly talking to each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to the point where I just kept looking down out of the corner of my eye. I was trying to entertain the other 98% of the people, and I kept seeing them talking, and it wasn't loud enough for anyone else to really get bothered by. But there's a thing in a comedy club. As soon as two people talk, it snowballs. The people around them get annoyed.
Oh
It goes
yeah.
further, and more people think, oh, it's okay to keep talking. So I just looked at them like halfway through my show, and I couldn't I couldn't hold it in any longer.
Yeah.
And I just looked down at them. I said, "Would you two shut up?" And it just came out like, and
Yeah.
the whole audience looked at me as if like, "Wow, he just lost it at two people who didn't even say a thing."
Yeah.
And and then I realized I'd lost them in that moment. I was like, "Oh no!" So yeah, that happens, and
Yeah. 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 Man, that happens, and you just gotta accept it, and
you got to accept it. Yeah, you got to
yeah,
deal with it.
and just
There
move
was a
on,
there was
and
a
kind of
there,
be proud of it. Like you did something. I mean,
yeah.
you did something. So
Well,
the
that's
other option would be bottling it up and probably blowing some brain cells that way.
exactly, yeah. I mean, that's the problem with being a performer is you've got to hold it in, or you've got to deal with it in a really funny way. But once you've been triggered, it's difficult. I mean, there was a guy there was a guy last year, and this is a problem. A lot of audiences, they don't see that you can see everything. As a comedian, you're fully aware of what's going on. Like if there's one person not enjoying the show, you focus your energy on that one person. You don't like you can tell everything that's happening. So there was a guy halfway back into a show last year, and he was trying to look at his phone under like
Oh, yeah,
hiding it on
yeah,
his
yeah,
lap, and he,
yeah.
he thought that the person in front of him was blocking his view,
I
but
think he might have been taking pictures, but
no,
we
yeah.
won't think too.
No, he was checking his emails because I actually called him out. I saw him like face down into his phone, and the problem is people's phones they light up. So
Yeah.
if you're in a dark room, your face is lit up. And I sort of stopped the show at one point. I just said, "Are you what are you doing there, buddy?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just checking my emails." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, do you mind if we just get on with the show?" And he said, "Oh yeah, it's my work." And I said, "Oh yeah, well yeah, you're at my work right now." So
Oh yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah,
yeah, and it caused a bit of tension, but I was able to
yeah.
make a bit of fun of it, and that's what you need to do in those situations.
Dude,
But
if I was there, I'd be at the front clapping and hooting and hollering. So
yeah, well that's the problem. Like I have a job where you want people to come and like you and make noise, but you also have those personal
yeah.
anxieties about noise. So it's a difficult career to have chosen to have these things happen. That's for sure.
Well, so yeah, we've gone like more than halfway, and I haven't even gone back to like where this started with you. Like usually that's kind of one of the first things I ask. This has been
Oh yeah, I'm
such
sorry about
a
that.
we just no no this has been great. We've been just kind of like rolling with this fascinating look at your work and everything you've been doing. But yeah, now let's talk about like when did this all start for you? When did you notice that you had this?
I I honestly can't answer that in a like. There's not one thing that
Yeah, there's
happened.
usually not like a moment, but
Yeah.
do you remember like around like age period, kind of the first few people who were triggering you,
Um,
or
Look, I went through a lot of anxiety and probably a dose of depression in my late teens. So
Mm.
there was, that's the that's the standard thing you need to do to become a comedian.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a classic comedian
Yeah,
cliche almost. Yeah.
yeah, you've got to tick that box to become a comic. So I had a few anxiety, things happening in my teenage years, but nothing I could really pinpoint to noise. I grew up in a house of four children,
Mm.
so we had a busy household, and I like to self-diagnose sometimes, and I often think back at some of my anxieties that maybe I was in such a busy house all the time. I never had my own space. I never had my own, my own room until I was
Yeah.
a late teenager. So it was like, all right, I need to be away from people. I like to have my own thoughts, and I've never been in a position where I had my own place. So I was even after that I started traveling for work, and I was always staying in backpacker hostels and staying at friends' houses and share houses and stuff. So I think as a child, maybe it just stemmed from never having my own space, and it was always noisy. But there's nothing I could really think of that pushed the buttons so much.
Got it. And then so when you started to get out there and after high school, whenever you started to travel more, is that when things start to flourish? Do you know when things start to snowball for you?
I think probably, yeah. I was living in London, and probably just hearing a lot of getting triggered by certain noises in restaurants and things like that.
Hmm.
Now, I honestly thought I had an issue with money, or like I thought, oh, I can't go out to restaurants because I don't want to I don't want to spend a lot
Oh,
at a restaurant. But it was
yeah.
actually it was really just the idea of being in those confined spaces and going to cinemas and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm in a movie theater and there's people behind me, crunching ice from a drink, or they're with a plastic
Yeah.
packet of chips, that's when I realize I have an issue, because most people can turn around and just sort of give that nasty glare, but you know very well, like people with misophonia, we turn around and we want to murder that person.
Hmm.
Like, that's the level of, and it's hard to say that to people because they think, oh, you're actually going to murder someone. Like, no, I know the
Yeah.
difference between good and
Yeah.
good and evil. I'm not going to murder someone, but we want to murder.
Yeah. Exactly.
So like, sorry, you don't have to be on record by saying that. By the way, I don't want to drag you into my crime spree here. But yeah.
No, that's okay. I've had my lawyer is going to give the okay before I publish this, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, look, I think I scare people when I say that sometimes, because I think people who don't have misophonia, they don't realize how severe the
Yeah.
frustration is for us. They don't realize, like, they go, oh, it's just a noise. I'm just clicking my pen, uh, or clipping my fingernails or something. I say, yeah, but that's worthy of murder for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, either they or they just think you're being the comedian and being hyperbolic,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
don't
they think
realize
it's
that.
funny.
Well,
Yeah,
you know what? Yeah,
yeah,
it's not quite murder, but there's a
yeah.
it's in that direction.
That's the problem. As a comedian, people go, "Oh, you're a comedian. Everything's funny. You should be happy all the
Oh,
time." Yeah,
well,
right.
yeah. I think anyone who's remotely knows about comedy knows that that's not the case. It's not. We're not Sesame Street here or anything.
But,
It's
but I do wonder about people with, and maybe I've actually spent far too long on public transport than other people traveling between gigs. But there's a high proportion of people who clip their fingernails, and I've even seen toenails on public transport,
I was going to
that
say that
makes me
earlier when you
wonder.
talked about that guy, but it's funny that you
Yeah,
brought that up again. Yeah.
it's like, how many
Have you had people
people?
shaving, like electric shaving
I've
on
seen that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I think, how fast is your facial hair growing, or how fast are your fingernails growing, that you think you need to do it on your journey, or are
Right,
you just
right.
time efficient? Are you just saving a lot of time? Like, what's
Yeah.
the what's the reason for that? Can't that wait? But and the cinemas as well. People talking, people chewing. I'm always just baffled at people's lack of awareness of other people around them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm really confused by is people can't understand that other people are around. And one of the biggest thing is people kissing on public transport. That's
Oh, right. Yeah.
like I get it. If you're out in a park on a bench, that's fine. I can walk past you. But if you're in a carriage and there's literally nowhere to go, I don't want someone leaning
Yeah.
up against me making out.
Yeah.
So, but then again, if I'm the one doing it, I'll ignore everybody around me. So
Gotcha. So, right. Yeah. 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 It's funny how, and so, and that goes back to kind of like what you were saying before about how you have to be eating, um, around other people eating, right? You can't just sit there watching
I mean,
somebody
I
eat
can I
or.
can eat I can eat on my own. I'm never
Oh
put off
yeah.
by my own noises for sure. But if somebody's eating an apple, like I will try and eat an apple with them, or I just have to get away from them. There's certain
Right.
crunchy things.
Right. If you can't get away, there is that mimicking is kind of a known as a coping mechanism.
Yeah,
And it sounds like that's kind of what that. So yeah, well, I guess other than leaving a situation and maybe doing this kind of mimicking, let's get into maybe some of your other I don't know coping mechanisms that you have. Obviously, humor for you is a
yeah.
huge one. Are there any
Humor is
tools you
one.
use like even like headphones or any other like little techniques that you tell yourself or use?
I think the telling myself that it will
We
pass
don't have
is
to get
one.
into your gun collection, but
No,
um,
no, no. We're not allowed guns down here, so that's fine.
right.
We're a bit we're a bit safer than the US there, so I'm happy with that. Um, I I do cope with. I'm really trying to learn meditation now. I'm dealing with things like exercise, going out and getting some fresh air, patting my dog, like those, just having the comfort of those sort of things.
Hmm.
But I think fresh air is one thing. Like really, any anxiety, any panic attacks, just getting out and get moving. Try not to stay in one place. That's something. I I find a humorous way to deal with people on public transport, and instead of getting angry at them, is when I'm on a plane, I try and take as many of those little free headphones that come out.
Oh
Where
yeah, yeah.
they give out the headphones. So then I actually and I've generally done this. I keep a few of them with me whenever I'm traveling anywhere. So if I'm on the bus or plane and someone's being noisy, I don't get angry. I turn around and offer them a free set of headphones.
Oh,
The best way to deal with someone who you're angry at is to give them something for free, because
oh.
it really messes with their head. You get to be one up on them and go, yeah, I hate you right now, but look, you get a free gift.
I
And
like
it's a
messing with
nice,
people's heads like that and just kind of
yeah,
like
it's like, oh,
surprising them. Yeah,
yeah, kill them with kindness. I think that's
yeah,
what they.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
So
interesting.
it's not a bad way to deal with it, but I
Mm.
guess in general, I try to wear headphones on public transport if I can. But that's unfortunately, I like to be in control as well, and being in control means you need to be aware of everything around you. So I can't wear noise cancelling headphones because
Oh,
I
yeah.
need to know what's happening outside of my head at the same time. So that's a very frustrating thing.
Yeah. And so are you going jumping back into to comedy, so are you always you always have a notepad and you're always writing, so it's kind of anything you're seeing, if you have an idea, you're writing. Um
Constantly, yeah.
yeah. And as you knew about you've known about Misophonia for the past couple of years, do you have like a separate list maybe? Do you like kind of group your jokes together? It's like, okay, there's some misophonia action going on. I'm going to spend the next half hour and in my
Yeah.
misophonia book, like, yeah, how do you, or is that maybe, I should ask this question, like, is it painful do you have to like kind of like, I would imagine you have to start to think about misophonia and think about the sounds. Does that kind of bother you too as you're writing the joke? Like, how do you, deal with that? Or do
No.
you write the joke after when have a drink or something and you're outside?
I think yeah, I mean, if something happens to me, then I get triggered by it. But my brain is is switched on, so I'll find the funny thing in any situation.
Yeah.
And I'm not going out looking for humor all the time, but it comes to you. So
Right.
yeah, like the people clipping their fingernails on a bus, I go, my brain is instantly annoyed, but my brain is instantly thinking, wow, how fast are your fingernails growing? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
are you going to win the Guinness World Record if you don't clip them? They're just going to keep growing all day. Did a doctor tell you that that you need to keep clipping at a rate of every hour just so you don't hurt other people? So
Right.
I'm always writing the jokes, about these things as it happens. But I've got files on my computer that I have, like for misophonia. I have different things that I write about. I on my Now that I'm on, if I'm on social media, I hashtag misophonia when I do a joke, so I can track those jokes down again. And I'm trying to build up a collection of them, and it's nice to be able to do it because it normalizes what it is for people as well. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
who realize we don't have a voice out there. So
Yes. Well, with people like, people like you who are literally out there. I mean, I got this little thing. I interview people once a week, but you're doing
yeah,
shows like constantly. Well, once the world opens up again.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, you're everywhere talking about it. It's a fascinating platform. So, yeah, let's maybe start to talk about that a little bit as we kind of veer towards home here. I think you mentioned one of your emails that you're trying to use your platform to create a community for misophonia
I am.
in some way. So yeah, let's hear about that
Yeah, I'm very passionate about exploring and talking about mental health awareness. As it
in
is
general. Yeah.
becoming a huge thing in the world. It's being very very talked about now. Like when I was 20 and I was going through my own depression and anger management problems and things like that, it was very not talked about in small towns. And now I'm trying to make it fun, make it normal for people to
Hmm.
even say, yeah, I've had issues, and everyone has it. Everyone's been affected by it. So I'm building a bit of a community online, and I've started up a thing which it's all very, like, quite literally brand new. So there's not much happening online at the moment, but I've started. I wonder, in the US, do you have an expression called "calm the farm"? Have you heard that expression?
I don't think I've heard that exact term. Why don't you tell us about it?
It's like when people tell you to calm down, or they say, cool it,
Yeah.
just chill out. They say,
Yeah. Yeah.
calm,
Yeah.
calm your farm. It's
Okay.
a Yeah. So I don't know. It's just maybe it's an Australian thing. I don't know, but I just thought I'd took that expression, and then I just turned it around to farm the calm. So
Yeah.
we should try and farm our calm. And
Right.
so I've got that as a handle for all the social media, the
Yeah.
farm the calm.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I'd like to do one day is actually have a retreat, have a place where people can
Yeah.
go and stay on a farm. They can learn to come and relax. It's a good place for mental health. It's a getaway. They can do their meditation workshops and escape the city, escape the hustle and bustle. And in the meantime, I would like to build a bit of an online community where people can actually just start sharing their stories and their tips on how to deal with it, with anxiety, with stress,
Hmm.
how to focus on mindfulness and mental health awareness. So and use it with humor. There's a lot of people who talk about serious mental health issues and serious anxieties and stuff like that, and it's all very informative. It's all very medical, perhaps, but there's not a lot of people who just think, you know what, we can make fun of this as well. We don't have
Yeah.
to we don't have to hide it. We don't have to be upset or feel ashamed of these things. Just embrace it and have fun with it and go, yeah, man, I get pissed off when people make noise. That's fine. I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah, man. I think that's why it's great to have this kind of a comedian perspective because your comedians are great at self-deprecation and using that
Yeah.
for to make them feel better.
Yeah.
Um, and even though not everyone gets that, but yeah, that's a voice that you're right. It's not. It's misophonia tends to be. It feels like you're talking to a lot of people who either are, medical professionals or they just are in the middle of a trigger. So it's just a bunch of screaming. And
Yeah.
so, but there isn't this like, this type of processing that you're talking about where it's like being self-aware, kind of making fun of it,
Yeah.
and using the humor for good. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to, yeah, I'd love to see more of this.
Well,
I
if we
wish
can
Ricky
get,
Gervais also was kind of
yeah.
a little bit more vocal about. Oh, Sarah Silverman too.
Uh,
Sarah Silverman is actually very vocal about her misophonia. She uses it by name and talks about it on podcasts.
all right. Well, that's
That's
good.
another
I should,
yeah,
yeah.
tweet her or something.
I will, and that's funny about the being vocal about it. That's like it was an easy joke I thought of the other week. I think I wrote a meme or whatever or a tweet. I just said I have misophonia. I like not many. Sorry, I think it was not many people know I have misophonia. I try to keep quiet about it. It's just
That's good. Yeah,
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 it's
yeah,
just a little gag, but even things like that is nice
yeah.
to sort of, keep it funny, keep it light, and I think maybe we can change the world for better if we can raise awareness that those things are annoying. We could probably rid the world of plastic. Imagine getting rid of
Oh
plastic
yeah.
grocery bags completely because people, when you go traveling and staying in a hostel or a shared accommodation, and there's someone wakes you up in the morning because they're rustling through a plastic bag. I just want to give out like a tote bag, like one of those non-plastic bags to somebody and say, here, have this in the future. Or at a cinema, put your packet of crisps into a bucket so it doesn't make noise.
Right.
Yeah, we can change the world for better and
That
make the
just
world
that just got
more.
me thinking, especially talking about lawnmowers and leaf blowers, that maybe we can use a climate change angle where we can save, reduce climate change by getting rid of lawnmowers and leaf blowers. So misophonia for
It
climate
would be good.
change, climate
Oh
change
man, I
relief.
think
We should be part of the Paris Accord. I think misophonia should have its own channel there.
I think we should. I don't know how we'd go about protesting it though, because we wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
we wouldn't be
right,
able to pick it. What do we want?
right.
Shh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, well, yeah, this has been great. Yeah, maybe we should start to wind down, but you're all over social media and on the web, and probably you have clips on YouTube, I would imagine,
I do,
of your
yeah.
acts
So
or on your website.
the farm the calm thing that's new, but
Hmm.
if anyone wants to actually give that look on Facebook and Twitter, I've taken all the social media for that. Uh, fa- I hope my accent comes across all right.
Farm the
Farm the
Calm. Yeah, yeah,
farm
no,
farm farm the
y-
calm,
yeah, yeah.
and my name, but my main social media is it's Marcus Ryan,
It's
ITS
Marcus Ryan. Yep.
Marcus with a C and Ryan. So yeah, I'm pretty regular on Twitter and Facebook page and trying to do TikTok, but I don't want to do that. I'd rather go back to my true passion, and that's being on stage. But I have a
Yeah.
YouTube channel as well. So yeah, I have a website. It's marcusryan.com, and yeah, hopefully, I can get back to performing around the world live and do more shows. But in the meantime, it's all on my Facebook and Twitter and yeah, YouTube. I'm doing regular videos as well.
Oh, amazing. We will, yeah, I'll definitely have links to all of that. It's the
Thanks,
cliche
man. Yeah.
podcast thing to say, but I'll have links to all that in the show notes
No, I appreciate that.
and
It's
also
nice.
on our social
Yeah.
media too, not just in the show notes, hidden where nobody clicks.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and just side note, have you've come to the U.S., right? Have you come through? How close have you come to like Minnesota?
I think I was.
Or
I think I connected through Minnesota last
right.
year. I was flying from Florida. I was doing a festival down in Florida performing, and I had to go up to Canada to Winnipeg. So I think
Oh,
we
of
connected
course,
our
through
flight.
Delta. Yeah, yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
I had about an hour at the airport. So it was great part of Minnesota, the airport.
Yeah, right, 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 right.
Yeah. But I'm never shy of a challenge or an invitation. So I've yeah, as I said, I've performed in 50 countries around the world. I took my shows all through Latin America. I started up comedy in places that never had it. So yeah, if there's ever a venue and someone willing to have me, I'm open to come and do a show, and especially within the misophonia community as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
if I can build that following or an audience with that, I would love to come and do shows.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to build up a community here, so maybe we'll get you. And I know some venues. Maybe we'll get you over here. But maybe one last question, and maybe I'll have more. But what were some of the places of the world that surprised you in having a misophonia community? Like, were there some places where you're like, holy shit, there are all these people know about misophonia, and we're talking about it. Is there anything that kind of
Um,
surprised you?
no, I guess it everywhere has it. I mean, that's hard to,
Yeah.
maybe that's not the right answer for you, but everywhere I've been in the last couple of years, I have talked about it, and everyone is like, yeah, that's what I get, or that's what I've had, and
Yeah.
it's surprising, how many people didn't realize they had it or they didn't know what it was, and some people think it's just you're just easily irritated, but
Yeah. Yeah.
when you know you've got it, you've definitely got it for
Yep.
sure.
Absolutely.
I just wish we could get a little sticker or something we could wear on our shirt that says, don't get upset with me. It's you're the issue. It's not me, it's you.
Right. Well, great, Marcus. This is as even more fun than I was than I thought it would be. And I already had high expectations. So this has been great, man. I'd love to see you come through town, or I'll if you're
Yeah,
nearby, I'll try to make it.
yeah,
But good luck to you, and yeah, post COVID, and hopefully you're able to travel again. And
yeah.
thanks for coming on. Thanks for spreading the word around the world. This is an amazing platform and voice that you're using. So
Yeah, well,
we all appreciate it.
hopefully we can work together in the future. I mean, I would like to do not
Oh,
just
I'd love
comedy,
to.
but move into doing some public speaking about this kind of thing as well, and doing some
Yeah,
motivational shows. And there's a future for it to make people more aware of those things for sure. So yeah, thank you for taking the time to have me on. I appreciate it.
thank you, Marcus. That was a great conversation. Really had a fun time there. Hope to see you passing through the United States sometime in the future. Hope we all get a chance to go. If you like what you hear, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Music, as always, is by Moby. And until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.